All right, another day, another video. So this is the simulator with what we will be building today. It is this comment chat input mini screen. Yeah, that is literally all we will be building today. And you might be thinking, what? That is so trivial. That is nothing. But actually, as you will soon see, there is quite a bit of code and quite a bit of stuff to do in order to just get this little UI to work. When you see this UI, you might be thinking, okay, I can build this. All they did is somehow inject their little mini UI into the Apple default keyboard. No, that is not what they did. As far as I know, there is no API to inject your own UI into the Apple keyboard. So what this entails is actually a bunch of different things, including a custom text field in order to programmatically do focusing, which is surprisingly not part of the SwiftUI framework. There is some code to hook into events in order to do certain things at the right time. For example, focusing out. So yeah, there's quite a bit of work, but some of the lessons learned here, especially in regards to doing focus in and focus out, can most definitely be applied to lots of other controls in just about any type of application. So that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, let's get started. So before we can continue coding, we actually have to do some cleanup work with our folder structure. So in order to save time, and because it's fairly trivial, I've gone ahead and done most of the work myself already. If you want to hit pause and just move your files around, I've kept all the file names exactly as they were from the last video, so it should be trivial to mirror this folder structure. And let me just explain it real quick for you. There's really only two new root folders. I'm doing a common folder and I'm doing a screens folder. So as common would imply, anything that will be used across the application should be inside of common. So I've gone ahead and moved stuff like the fonts, the view modifiers that we worked on in the last video, the nav view from the first video, and other stuff into here. Some of this stuff, as we build out the app, will of course get moved again, but for now it makes sense to put them into this shared common folder. So this other folder is existing because, as you can see by this navigation bar, we have multiple screens that we're going to be building out. So I thought it would make sense to put this one screen's parent folder, and then inside of it have a separate folder for each tab that is here. But also we will have a folder, an additional folder called chat, for a screen that does not show in this nav bar, because that's the way that Instagram has chosen to do their chat screen. So we still have the content view and the root app launcher, basically the bootstrapper, but each tab is going into its own subfolder under screens. So then in the subfolder, in this case we only have home, what these guys mean is that they are referring to sections within this particular screen. So at the top, we have this news section here, which obviously will contain everything pertinent to news. And then we have this following list, which gives us the horizontal list of people that we are following, their avatars. And then we have our following content, which of course is all the stuff, the stream, the news feed, whatever you want to call it, of content of the people that we are following. So that's in here. Like I said, you want to hit pause on your screen and just mirror this folder structure. I have not yet changed any file names, and go ahead and come back. All right. So the next thing I want to do real quick is, like I said last time, I am terrible with names. So I do not know why I did not keep things consistent. So I'm just going to fix two files. All right, so we fixed names on just two files. And then the next thing I want to do is, as you can see here, these guys have been contained in their own dedicated views. And yet we did not do this for this. So I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to create a separate sort of parent file. Let's call it, to be name consistent, let's call it following body view. So we are using people and we are using the column width. So I'm going to add those. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really use the preview all that much. Let me just move out this screen. That's the final product. Show the interim app right here. And this I'm just showing, this is the screenshot from my own phone app. I'm just showing this for reference. So, okay, so we cleaned up the code a little bit. So that's cool. Now we need to start building it out. So you might remember from last time, basically most of the code in regards to this guy right here was living in here. So this is where we're going to be spending most of the time in this video. Okay, I brought back the other screen so we can compare between the two. And the first thing that I want to do is actually I want to put in the variables, whether they be state or whatever they may be, that we're going to end up using. So this variable we are going to use to determine, and as you can see, it's state. So we're going to use to determine whether or not the keyboard UI, this guy right here, should be showing up or not. So as part of that, we're also going to change the focus into this text field. And you'll see that because focus setting is not part of the text field or really anything in SwiftUI, at least not for iOS. There is a focusable in macOS, but obviously that's not what we're dealing with. So we had to create our own. And I'll show you a link to where I got that code from. But let's just flesh out these state variables first. So that's what the first one is going to be about. And then this one is going to be about having this UI, because it's not injected into this keyboard. It's just sitting in a Z stack on top of the rest of the UI. and moving along with the movement of the keyboard just above it. So in order to do that, we need to know what the height of the keyboard is. So that's why we need this state variable. And then, so this is also super important. So as you can see, this is a binding, which means that although it's state, it's coming in to this view from some parent in the hierarchy, right? And then what's going on, or why we need this, is because once the person is done tapping, or if they decide to go back for whatever reason, or maybe they hit this button, or there's some validation error or something, whatever the reason is, there has to be a way to escape from here, right? So again, there's no way to focus in and there's no way to focus out, at least not built in. So this ability is going to be indicated by this member, which is living in a different view. And then I'll show that as soon as we flesh this guy out a little bit more. So we're going to have virtually identical two of these text fields. So I'm going to create a placeholder variable, add a comment. So the other thing I want to do is these emojis are clickable, and they will be inserted into the comment text. So I want to create a function to handle that, since it's going to be a button wrapping the text, and they're coming up, as you can see here, whatever this is, 8-9 times. So I want to create a function to shorten some of that code. So this thing is going to return a button that has text inside of it. And this button, when clicked, is going to check whether the showing of this is permitted or not. And then if it's not, then it's going to reset it to true so that it does show up. And the reason for that is these two guys right here, right? So if I click this, it's pre-populating and it's showing the UI. So that's what, this action checking right here is about. And then the other thing is I want to be able to reset the text field's text and append that emoji to the end of it. So that's what's going on here. So then, like I said, the label is going to be text with the emoji. So let's make this parameter unnecessary. Just double checking that it compiles. What's going on here? Because I set up, where is it? This guy right here. So we don't actually need this just yet. So let's just leave that. So then the next question is going to be, how do I get this height value? And how do I even know that the keyboard has shown up? So the way to do that And actually, before I do that, let me put this whole thing in a Z stack. So that when my UI shows up, it will definitely be the one on top. I just want to make sure that that happens properly. So that's why I'm using a Z stack, since the thing that is set in the bottom will always be on top over the following items. So then how do I get the height? And how do I know when the keyboard showed up? So this is a modest amount of code, but basically what's going on is you hook into the notification center and you become an observer to this notification, which is one for when the keyboard shows up and one for when the keyboard is hidden, because obviously we have to reset the relevant state or members or whatever the case may be. So, and again, we're going to handle this in a moment. So when the keyboard shows up, what am I doing here? Well, inside of the notification, I have this user info, meaning it's like a payload of stuff related to the notification. So this dictionary, we're going to look for only the stuff relevant to our keyboard. Okay, and that stuff or that info is the frame size of the keyboard, because you can tell it's being cast as a CG rect. So when this value comes back, I can get the height off of it. So now I know the height of my keyboard. Okay, fine. So then what am I doing here? Now when the keyboard is being hidden, obviously it has no more height, so it's being set to 0. And because the keyboard was hidden, now I don't want to see my sub text field, which is what I'm calling the container that this guy lives in. Okay, so fine. Now that's set up. So how do I make use of these members now that I have information for? So what I can do is I can check whether the show subtext field is set to true or not, meaning, hey, show me the text field. The keyboard has showed up. So if I check that, okay, so what's this first thing that I'm creating within the VStack horizontally? So that would be all of these emoji right here. Right? So like I said, for me to do button text, and all that stuff 10 times or whatever it is would be unnecessarily repetitive. So that's why I created that function. So now we have our set of emoji buttons, horizontal emoji buttons. Now we don't have the capability yet to show anything, so I'm not going to compile this. But so that's the first thing that we want to set up in our little mini UI sitting on top of the keyboard. So then after that, I'm just going to make sure that the size and some padding is more similar to the original screen, meaning the real Instagram screen. So here I have an H stack. So I'm building out this horizontal set of controls right here. So the first thing that I want is the person thumb view, which needs a person. The width that I set is 30, and the line width is 2. All right. So these two elements, the text field that's about to come, and then this button to insert the desired text is going to be living inside of this H stack. But to mimic, again, the look and feel, I've decided to put both of these guys into an H stack with a border around it. So what that border looks like is actually, it's going to be an overlay. Whoops. The reason for that is that it is a rounded rectangle, and it has a stroke. So we're going to use our secondary color. Whoops. Okay, so I think that's it. So then inside of this thing will be our custom text field, because like I said, we want to programmatically focus inside of it, so that even though what people tapped on or clicked on is this, it will immediately reset to this and allow the person to immediately start, putting in their emoji or text. But this focusing capability is not built in. So that's why we are creating this custom text field. So inside of views, I'm going to create a new group. All right, now, so you guys are aware, I found this on Stack Overflow by Googling. There's actually several versions of this that I found, but this one was kind of the most simple and to the point of what I wanted to accomplish. So basically, let me give you this code and then explain what's going on here. So like I said, the built-in text field does not have a focus in and focus out. I think there is one in Mac OS, but obviously that's not what we're building for right now. So just show our... Okay, so what's going on? So you have to create a control, the custom text field, and it has to be based on this UI view representable. This is what will allow a UI kit view of one form or another to live inside of SwiftUI land. This inheritance right here. Okay. Now, because internally this is a UI view element, UI text field, it's going to work differently than a SwiftUI element. And one of the things that it needs, a UI text field needs, is a UI text field delegate. So the UI text field could be thought of as the text view or container or display And this coordinator, again, a UI text field delegate, is the guy that does the actual work. Now, in this case, we're not actually doing anything, much of anything, but normally, if you look at the documentation, this is where things like validation, for example, are being done. So anyway, once you create that, that delegate gets initialized by this call, and the view gets initialized by this call. And again, it's creating a UI text field view, which gives you the text field. The delegate is, again, the coordinator, and then the text field view is returned. In here, which is the most important part for what we're trying to accomplish, is when the UI view is updated, a check to see if it is the first responder is done. And all that means is it's trying to determine if this is being focused onto or into. And if it is not, then it is explicitly focused into. Now, it's not entirely clear to me why it's redundant, meaning why it's being done in the text UI field and the coordinator, the text field delegate, why it has to be done twice. Even the text is being set twice. So honestly, I don't know, but I don't really care because all I'm trying to do is set the focus. I'm not trying to become a UI text field expert, especially when I'm using SwiftUI. Now, moving right along. So now we have our custom text field. And then it also takes this comment text from last time, but it also takes this is first responder. So this is what's going to determine, if this guy should gain focus or not. So obviously, it would make sense to use our show subtext field in here so that if it's true, the focus would be set to this text field. Okay, so that's all we're doing in this case. Now, the next thing we're going to build is this button right here. Although we're currently not ready to do a navigation into the screen into the chat screen because we don't have one, but we're still going to build out the UI. So like I said before, this is a fair amount of code, a lot more than you would expect for something that should be pretty trivial. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe SwiftUI, since it is only version 2.0, is it has some stuff to be filled out as of yet. But this as of right now, this is the reality. So you got to do what you got to do, right? So after that, we're going to put some padding because as you saw last time, I had some issues with stuff going off of the screen on the right side. Still trying to figure out why that's happening. But anyway, so we have this. And again, it's that entire horizontal view of items from left to right once the keyboard entry, the comment entry UI has shown itself. And then after that, where am I? Yeah, I'm on the H stack. Okay. I need to set a specific height for my for this guy. Okay. And then I need to do some minor padding stuff just to make it less ugly. All right, so we got that. Before I enter, actually, let's put this in, and then I will explain it in a moment. So let me just show you which of the containers. Let's see. Yeah. So it's our top VStack, okay, which is the very first thing that exists after our check of show subtext field. So the reason why we have this code, this, and then the animation, is because due to the notifications about the keyboard showing up, we now know the height of the keyboard. Okay? So I'm using this formula to try and guesstimate exactly what my offset, again, this is the entire container for this thing, for all of this. Okay? So I'm trying to figure out where exactly it has to be so that it is not, either partially covered by the keyboard or way up here or whatever, right? So I need to have that number, which is based upon the height of the keyboard plus the various paddings and heights of the contained in elements in the VStack. Right? So that's why I had to do a little bit of math here. Now, honestly, this formula isn't perfect. I have to spend some time probably variabilizing some of this stuff so that I can have some sort of function to do a math formula in here that is precise, because depending on what device you have, it looks like this could be affected and it doesn't line up perfectly. But obviously that's a detail issue. The main thing is to get, this core stuff working, and then we can work on some of these miscellaneous items a little bit later. So then, okay, we know we already got the height. We know that we want to set the offset, and we want to set an animation so it kind of smoothly comes in. But other than that one time where the emoji is set, what if the user is not clicking on an emoji and they're clicking direct in here, right? How can we get this thing to show up? So actually, in this case, it's not show up, it's hide. So what we're trying to do is this, right? The user's done, or they want to go back in here to take a look at something. So they want to click out and focus out, basically. So how are we doing that? So the way that we're doing that is we're hooking into this onChange event handler, which is referring to the change of anything that is in this parameter. So in this case, we need that member that we commented out. And I'm going to put that back in just a moment. So what this means is the previous value and then the latest value. So if we are always caring about the latest value, and the latest value is true, meaning that somebody did click out, the user did click out, then obviously I no longer want to show the sub text field, the UI sitting on top of the keyboard. And that's what I'm doing here. So focusing out is being done by this kind of high level event handler for this state variable. And then clicking in is being handled by, first of all, the checking of whether I need to show this thing or not, the UI on top of the keyboard. And then if I do, passing that as a parameter to our custom text field so that it can set this, become first responder, which is a weird name, but that's what focusing in is talking about. So we need to bring this back. We're setting this to false so that we can reset the ability to exit out every time the keyboard shows up again. And then so what I did is inside of the parent that has the actual state, I'm calling it clicked on me. And the reason for that is, as I explained before, this following body view is all of the content material for every person, right? Because it's in a for each loop, so it's giving us each of the contents for each of the people. So as far as following body view is concerned, the user clicked on me. So that's why I decided to change the name as far as over here is concerned. So then the way to pass that is actually to go in here, because our mini add comment view is living inside of the person footer, which is sort of the container for this subsection of our content UI. But in here, what did I call this thing? Clicked out. I'm just going to call it clicked out. Yes, that is correct, because we are sending it in as a changeable binding, so we do need that dollar. All right. So what is this thing called? All right, so what's going on here? Yeah. So the reason why I had to add this is when somebody clicks here, I want that immediately to trigger this guy to open up. And then the whole bit of refocusing on this element and then, bringing up the keyboard and all of that stuff. So I was missing this piece. So actually we need one more thing. I did say this is a lot more code than you might have thought. So obviously on tap gesture, if somebody taps on any of these content elements, whether it be the footer, the image itself, or the header portion up here, it will trigger this to basically defocus is what the goal that we've been trying to achieve here. So that's it. This will hopefully benefit you if you are also trying to do focus and out of focus. And in the next video, we're going to be building out the actual destination chat screen after the user clicks this. And I will see you there. Thanks for watching.